There we go. That's what we like. Hello everybody, Jim here. Welcome back for another glorious edition of More Games. You'll have to excuse me if I'm not exactly super high energy today. It is, of course, Monday. It's Monday night. Whew, and it was a long one. It was a long, grueling, arduous Monday today. I'll be honest with you, I got a little bit of the Monday blues, but thankfully there are multiple cures for the Monday blues. First of all, I mean, it is a self-limiting disease. It does eventually go away on its own, usually by Wednesday. But there are some things you can do to treat it if you want to, if you want your symptoms to go away that much faster. First of all, we have beer here. That always helps. Tonight we are drinking a bit of Ebisu premium malts in the gold can with the guy with the big fish, so you know it's quality. This guy knows his fish, so he probably knows his beers. I don't know. I'm just making that up. I don't even know who this is supposed to be. But born... Hey! Oh, no, I thought they were talking about the guy. No, it says born in 1890, Tokyo. And this stuff. I thought they were going to tell me about the guy, but it just says rich, mellow premium beer brewed from 100% fine malt and select hops with Sapporo's traditional art. So there you go. That's great. I've been to Sapporo. I drank some of the beer they have there. Good stuff. Anyway, this is not a beer video, and it could be. Do you want it to be? But anyway, Ebisu premium malts chase away those Monday blues. Oh yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. Okay, now, in addition to your beer, if you want to speed up the process, I also recommend you take this, a nice stack of Dreamcast games. Half a dozen Dreamcast games right here. Picked all of this stuff up recently. I've been having fun with it. It's probably all going to be in the mail by the end of the month. But man, while it's here, I've really been digging these Dreamcast games, getting right back into them. And this will definitely chase away your Monday blues. So let's take a look at some Dreamcast games. We're gonna... Don't let this guy get away from you. Because that's the other thing. There's the two things together now. The beer and the Dreamcast games together. That's what creates a sort of active something or other. But I swear it's clinical trials right now. Get rid of those Monday blues. All right, these Dreamcast games, a half dozen of them. Now, my proclivities come through here because 4 of these are Capcom games. What can you say? Like, Capcom just killed it on the Dreamcast. This first game here, a bit of a heavy hitter. Gonna get this right out of the way. Right off top, we got a copy of Giga Wing. And Giga Wing, wow. What can you say about such a fine shooter? Not developed by Capcom. It's been published by Capcom. I forget who the developers are, unless it was developed by Capcom. Unless I'm just wrong. But the 2 Giga Wing games, both on the Dreamcast, I actually prefer this first Giga Wing to the second one. So awesome about this game is you have your multiple playable characters. It's bullet hell style. You have your primary shots, and you have your super bombs, and it's kind of just you and your wits and what have you. But you also have very cool reflector force ability, which is built up kind of like a little power meter at the bottom of the screen. And when it's full, you can use it to cancel out the bullets on the screen, turn them into points, and also deal damage to enemies on screen. So it's awesome. So you have your super bombs, those are great in a pinch, but then you build up your reflector force ability, and then that's just like, points. So if you're using that wisely, you're gonna get a ton of points, and that's good if you're like playing for score or whatever. And the scores in this game do go to like very astronomical levels. The scores are ridiculous. So it's a lot of fun. The second game I felt like leaned way too heavy into the reflector force. Feels like the entire game is just, the bullet hellness of it is so ridiculous. It's like the reflector force, you need it constantly. Whereas here, it's a cool gimmick on top of what is just essentially a solid shoot 'em up. So yeah, the original Gigawing, great game, super awesome gameplay. The Reflector Force just makes it, you know, again, it's a nice gimmick on top of good gameplay. And then the graphics are really great, and the soundtrack is awesome too. Really great, rockin', kick-ass soundtrack. And I mean, there are a ton of shooters on the Dreamcast. Most of them are just like outstanding. Like, it would be really hard to put together like a top 10 list, for example, of shooters on the Dreamcast, just because like there's some pretty stiff competition on there. There's like this, and there's like Zero Gunner 2, and you could make an argument for Ikaruga, even though that's like not my favorite shooter in the world. There's plenty of great shooters. Even some of the stuff like Kados is really great. Things like that, you know, I'd have a tough time. But anyway, Gigawing, great game. Again, beautiful graphics, awesome sound design, great gameplay. Yeah, this is the one. It's just, you know, it's if you're a shooter fan, you've got a Dreamcast. It feels like it's one of those must-have games. But it is, like I said, a bit of a heavy hitter though. It's a little bit pricey, so you got to be careful. But it's awesome. This next title, fun game, but kind of an oddball, odd licensing, I think. Heavy Metal. Very cool. Heavy Metal Geomatrix is the full title. So what is Heavy Metal? This is a Capcom developed arena shooter, arena combat game. Basically, if you played Spawn in the Demon's Hand, this is very much like Spawn, and I'm thinking like arena combat, sort of this era. Maybe like Outrigger, is that kind of the same vein? Like Outrigger, Quake and stuff, just arena combat. You have a whole bunch of characters, I'm assuming from the Heavy Metal comic series. You know, I like the Heavy Metal animated movies, but I never actually read any of the Heavy Metal comics, and in fact, the only character that I recognize in here is Dee, the scantily clad, sort of like armored woman, the bad bitch, if you will. She looks a lot like the main character, maybe she even is the main character from Heavy Metal 2000. Again, the second animated movie, unless that character's name was Fact 2, and she's just modeled after kind of like the actress who this character is modeled after herself. But this is a fun game. Again, it's pretty mindless stuff. Just you dropped into an arena, you got a bunch of weapons and all kinds of crazy things, and you run around and you kill the other players, and you try to kill them as many times as possible so you can have the highest score at the end of the round and move on. So a bunch of crazy characters. Again, kind of odd licensing. Heavy Metal, as far as I know, this is the only game ever made based on Heavy Metal. I could be wrong. But this is a pretty good game. Again, if you like Spawn and the Demon's Hand, if you like arena shooters in general, you will like this. The soundtrack is, you know, it's got a pretty rockin' soundtrack, and specifically, they licensed at least one song, maybe multiple songs from Megadeth for this game, which is pretty cool, even though like I feel like Megadeth's best music was obviously in the 80s, maybe some of their early 90s stuff. So by this time around, this is not like Moto Psycho is not really like my favorite Megadeth song, but whatever, still a pretty cool game, cool graphics, soundtrack, fun gameplay, and again, the licensing is nice because it gives you all these cool characters to play as. So there you go, Heavy Metal Geomatrix. That's a fun one, kind of an oddity on the Dreamcast. Up next, we've got, I think the rest of these are all fighting games. If there's one thing that the Dreamcast did right, aside from shoot 'em ups, it is fighting games. First up, kind of I think some collection of games that kind of get overlooked because the one that followed was just so like awesome. But this is Street Fighter 3 Double Impact, and what this is it is a collection of Street Fighter 3, the new generation, and Street Fighter Second Impact. And the thing, both of these games are awesome. Street Fighter 3 is just awesome, period. I will play Street Fighter 3 over Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. Give me some Street Fighter 3. But the thing is is that Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is just like so awesome. It feels like everyone forgets that there were 2 Street Fighter 3 games that came before it, which is too bad because the gameplay in these is still like super solid, rock solid. It's still Street Fighter 3. It's still awesome. That just like really great like Street Fighter gameplay, but then you have the parrying as well, which just adds like this whole other element to it, which is like I think like that was such an integral part of Street Fighter 3. It's amazing that they haven't used it for like any follow-up games because it really changes the gameplay. Just such a I don't know, a dynamic, is that a word I'm looking for? Whenever you're lost for words, just say dynamic, and then that kind of sounds like you know what you're talking about. But both of these games are awesome. I think they are still worth playing, not just because like the gameplay is still really great. The characters in some instances have different move sets. They play differently than they played in Third Strike. Also, I mean, Third Strike, great graphics, and the sound design is really great. It has kind of like the hip hop aesthetic. So do these games, but I think the stage designs in here are, some of them I like better than I like the stages in Third Strike, and the soundtrack here is really great too, or the soundtracks. Again, there's 2 games, not 1. But yeah, Third Strike, amazing game, one of the best 2D fighters ever made. But do not forget about the first 2 Street Fighter 3 games, because they are still both awesome. Still worth going back to. Go check them out. There's more than 1 Street Fighter 3. Why does everyone forget that? But love this game. Happy I picked it up, and someone's going to be happy with this. This is going to be in somebody's mailbox sometime soon. But there you go. Street Fighter 3 Double Impact. What a game. What a collection of games. Great stuff. We got some more games coming up, but first we're going to take a quick little beer break. So yeah, drink them if you got them, and we'll be right back.
その日、セガエンタープライゼス専務湯川秀和は驚くべき街の声を耳にした。セガなんてダッセよな。プレステの方が面白いよな。
そうなのか。なんてこった。止めてくれ。一人になりたいんだ。セガなんてダッセよな。ちょ。なおちゃん。ごめんなさいよ。おかえりなさい。どうなさったの？
立つんだ、湯川専務。
All right, back to it. Back to these Dreamcast games. The second half. Here we go. 3 more awesome fighting games. And this next one up, another great Capcom developed classic. Not sure if the Dreamcast version was released outside of Japan, actually. I think I remember playing this on the Xbox. But this is Capcom versus SNK 2. Millionaire Fighting 2001. I mean, what can you say about this game? It is super awesome. The only like real complaint I could ever have about this game, and the one that came before it, is while like all the SNK characters have their cool like Capcom redesigns, and some of the Street Fighter characters do as well, most of them are just like reused assets from the Street Fighter Alpha games, and I thought that was kind of lame. It would have been nice to see like redesigned, you know, Sagat and Cammy. That would have been cool. Or Morgan. I mean, Morgan's in this game, and they just took her sprite directly from Darkstalkers. So it, you know, some redesigns for those characters would have been cool. I do like seeing some characters you hadn't seen in a long time, or maybe you'd never seen in like a 2D fighter. Kyosuke from Rival Schools is in this game, which is cool. Maki from the Final Fight series. Eagle from the original Street Fighter. So cool character inclusions. But overall, this is just an amazing game. I mean, the first Capcom versus SNK is awesome. This one overshadows it in pretty much like every way. I mean, the roster of characters is so much bigger, and there are so many more ways to play. In the first game, you had the Capcom groove and the SNK groove. Here you have 6 different ways to play, modeled after Street Fighter 3 and not Street Fighter 3, but Super Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter Alpha and Samurai Spirits and King of Fighters. They're just, you know, and your attacks and your various other moves will be changed. Your super combo meters will be changed. All kinds of stuff. So they're just like a whole lot of gameplay options, plenty of gameplay modes, huge roster of characters, great graphics, really great soundtrack, all that good stuff. And but I mean, strip all that away. At its core, just an amazing fighting game. You know, build your team of characters and then have at it. Great if you're playing just the arcade modes, if you're playing some kind of playing like a challenge or something like that, or multiplayer is absolutely great. I don't know if this gets played like a lot in like tournament circles. Like I know like Super Street Fighter 2 and various other older games like that still get a lot of play in like competitive tournaments. Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. You know, these games, you know, they're fairly old by this point. They're like, you know, 20 some odd, like about 30 years old in the case of Super 2 Turbo. But yeah, I wonder how many people are still playing Capcom versus SNK 2. I'd like to know. But this game is fantastic. Again, I believe that this was not released internationally on the Dreamcast. I think the Dreamcast version was exclusive to Japan. And it's great. It's a fantastic version of this game. Again, anything Capcom ported to the Dreamcast, they did an amazing job on. And again, back in the day, I played this on the Xbox. I had it on the Xbox, and that was a great port as well. I have to imagine it was modeled after this Dreamcast version, though, because this is just fantastic. But you know, again, you could talk all day about this. I think you probably already know that this is an amazing game. If you love Dreamcast fighters, this is essential for your collection if you're picking up Japanese Dreamcast games. And that's Capcom versus SNK 2. Brilliant, beautiful, wonderful game. Two more fighters. We're past the Capcom stuff. Now we give some other companies a chance to shine. Starting with Sammy, speaking of fighters that were released on the Dreamcast exclusively in Japan. See, I got released and exclusive mixed up. That's what happens when, you know, those Monday blues keep kicking in. Guilty Gear X. I mean, what can you say about this? Or the Guilty Gear series in general. Like the more recent Guilty Gear games, they're very cool. The graphics are amazing. All the super moves, all that stuff, it looks really great. These classic Guilty Gear games, though, these strictly 2D fighters, I mean, they're just amazing. I mean, the graphics are like just beautiful. Like at the time, I remember just being so blown away by these character designs and these stage designs. And the animations were just amazing, because I picked up the original Guilty Gear as a $10 bargain bin game at a Walmart for the PlayStation, not even knowing what it was, just knowing it was only $10 and cool, a game I can actually afford to buy myself. And then Guilty Gear ends up becoming like just an absolute, you know, favorite of me and my friends. We played it so much. And then this, Guilty Gear X, was not released in the United States on the Dreamcast, which was a bummer, because I had gotten myself a Dreamcast in 2000 and was looking forward to some, you know, playing some great fighting games on it, and Guilty Gear was not going to be one of them. So we had to wait for the PS2 release, which was, you know, didn't have to wait too long for that, and those are great ports as well. But yeah, Guilty Gear X on the Dreamcast, amazing gameplay, beautiful graphics, great soundtrack, as we all know, these awesome heavy metal soundtracks in the Guilty Gear games. And then this game, a sequel to the original Guilty Gear, and it introduces a whole bunch of new characters that became mainstays for the rest of the series. We get introduced to Johnny, and we also get like Venom, and I think Jam. So yeah, a bunch of fan favorites, if you will, get introduced in this game, and they're awesome. In addition to the original cast, characters like Kai and Saul and Faust. Yeah, just so awesome. Again, this particular version, again, it was ported to the PS2, and then there are a whole bunch of sequels also on the PS2. All great games, but if you have a Dreamcast and you're collecting imports, this is a fantastic fighter for the system, and it's also not terribly expensive right now. You can probably pick it up for like between 20 and 30 bucks these days, which I think it's worth, especially if you find it in good condition and it comes with like a little CD with a couple of music tracks on it. So that's awesome. But happy to have this again, playing it for a bit before it leaves me. But again, it's super affordable, so I'm sure copies will come in and out now and again. But there you go. Guilty Gear X Dreamcast. Amazing game. Again, if you're buying Dreamcast imports, Guilty Gear X is probably going to be one of the first ones you're going to want to pick up because it's awesome and it's not so expensive. And our final game of the night, speaking of just like amazing Dreamcast fighters, this one by SNK. They did some really great stuff on the Dreamcast. This might be the best one they released on the Dreamcast though. This is God-O, Mark of the Wolves. Which did get a release in the United States, now that I think about it, as simply Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolves. But this game, just like, I don't know, when I first played it, I was kind of blown away because I had become quite the fan of Fatal Fury Special. I had played the hell out of that game. A friend introduced me to the series, and then I played quite a lot of Fatal Fury Special on the SNES, and even though that's like not the best version of that game, not by a long shot, I still really liked it, really got into the characters and everything, and that's kind of, you know, got me interested in SNK stuff, eventually going on to King of Fighters. So when I finally rented Mark of the Wolves, I was a little taken aback. Totally different graphical style. Aside from Terry, like all those characters I really loved were no longer in the game. Luckily, the new characters are pretty cool. Rock Howard is really cool, and in the English version he's called Kushnud Butt. I have no idea why. The disciple of Kyokugen Karate. In the Japanese version, he's called, I think, Marco Rodriguez, which is a normal name. I don't know why they would have wanted to change his name to Kushnud Butt. I don't know. Maybe it was somebody's idea of a joke. And you get the Sons of Kim Kap-Wan, which are very cool too. They have their own different personalities. But I can just say that the gameplay in this game is awesome. 4-button fighter, fantastic, super smooth gameplay, very fun. And then you have your super combo meter is kind of not the super combo meter. That's not so unique. Like you go 2 different power levels, so you can do more powerful super attacks. But your health bar, you can choose if you want sort of like a super boost section of your health bar to either be, in one of 3 sections, in the middle or at the front end or at the back end. And when you're in that section of your health bar, your attacks can deal more damage. It's kind of like going into like a little bit of a boost mode. So that's kind of a cool little gameplay mechanic that they threw in there. But again, just overall, generally speaking, gimmicks aside, all that kind of stuff, just really, really solid gameplay. Great roster of characters. Really, just like beautiful graphics. Again, coming from Fatal Fury Special, which, cool game, cool stage designs and everything like that. I mean, this game just looked absolutely beautiful. I mean, some of the character stuff, it all looks almost like hand-drawn. It's not, mind you. It's not like, that kind of like Guilty Gear hand-drawn look, or at least I suppose they weren't going for that, but in some instances it looks like that. Very just like clean, beautiful graphics. So again, this is one that can be played, I believe, on like the PS2 and maybe some other platforms, but I have always thought of this as a Dreamcast game. And it's awesome. I don't know what else to say. This is another one that if you're starting a Dreamcast collection, you want to get some fighting games in it, pick up Mark of the Wolves, because it's a fantastic game, and it's another one that's not too terribly expensive either. Much like Guilty Gear X, probably in the range of 20 to 30 bucks, not much more than that. But there it is, God-O, Mark of the Wolves, amazing game. Very happy to have it on hand right now. And that's it. Those are half a dozen really just top quality Dreamcast games. Can you tell how I'm so winded and tired at the end of that Monday? Must have beer. Alright, so everybody, you saw the games. Now let me know what you think of them down in the comments. What are your thoughts on any of these Dreamcast games, or all of these Dreamcast games? I'd love to hear from you. Also, because I'm, picking up Dreamcast games pretty regularly, at least every month. Like new Dreamcast games are coming in and out. So if you could pick up any Dreamcast game you want, especially if you could pick up any Japanese Dreamcast games you want right now, today, what would they be? What's on your wish list? Because that's something else I'd like to hear about. You know, these pickups videos, most of it is like wish list type stuff. People tell me what they want and then I go and get it. So yeah, that's something I'd like to hear in the comments. What is some stuff on your wish list? Do you have any memories with any of these games? Do you like them? Do you not like them? What do you think? That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of More Games. I can't believe I keep getting all these games. What the hell is wrong with me? So thanks everybody for watching, and I appreciate you. Appreciate you so much doing all the things you do, watching, liking, subscribing, maybe? I don't know. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But yeah, beer, drink it if you got it. If you don't got it, go and get it, or go get something else, whatever the case may be. But yeah, now I'm starting to ramble. This is really the part where late night Monday, my brain is drained. I need to shut off the camera, finish this beer, maybe finish like 3 or 4 more beers, and then hit the hay, do this whole crazy thing again tomorrow. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and take care. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.